Imagine being face to face with a tyrant who has the power to end your life at a whim. What would you do? Run, beg for mercy? Or would you outsmart him? Today, we unraveled the tale of Shahrazad, a young woman who dared to challenge the darkest side of human nature and became the greatest storyteller of all time. Her weapon stories, her mission to save lives, and her legacy. Immortal. So, buckle up as we dive into the mesmerizing story of how Shahrazad outsmarted a tyrant king. To understand Shahrazad's story, we must first step into her world, the Middle East, during the Islamic Golden Age. This was a time of immense cultural, scientific, and literary advancement. Great cities like Baghdad, Damascus, and Cairo thrived as centers of knowledge and creativity. Philosophy, astronomy, mathematics, and medicine flourished, but alongside this intellectual awakening existed powerful monarchies, complex court intrigues, and deep-rooted social hierarchies. King Shahryar ruled with absolute power, but his personal life was shattered. Betrayed by his queen's infidelity, his heartbreak morphed into hatred. He devised a horrific plan: marry a new woman every day, only to execute her the following morning. His kingdom lived in terror, its women facing a fate worse than death. But then came Shahrazad, the vizier's daughter, who dared to do what no one else could. Shahrazad was no ordinary woman. She was brilliant, well-read, and wise beyond her years. Raised in a household that valued knowledge, she was immersed in literature, philosophy, and history from a young age. She had studied ancient epics, religious texts, and moral parables from across cultures. But what truly set her apart was her courage and strategic mind. She knew that logic or protest would not sway a heart consumed by grief and rage. Instead, she turned to the one thing that transcends fear and resistance: storytelling. When no one else dared to confront the king, Shahrazad stepped forward. She volunteered to marry Shahryar, knowing full well what awaited her the next morning. Her family begged her not to go, but she had a plan so ingenious it would be talked about for centuries. On her wedding night, Shahrazad began to weave her magic. As the stars filled the sky, she told the king a story. But this wasn't just any story. It was gripping, filled with twists and turns, and right when the tale reached its climax, she stopped. She promised to finish the story the next night, leaving the king desperate to hear more. This was her genius. By sparking his curiosity, she bought herself another day of life. Night after night, Shahrazad told stories that danced between fantasy and reality. Tales of adventure, love, betrayal, and wisdom. You've probably heard of some of them. The Cunning of Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, where the phrase "open sesame" first entered the world. The magical journey of Aladdin and the wonderful lamp, with its genies and enchanted treasures. The daring voyages of Sinbad the Sailor, who faced monsters, storms, and marvels beyond imagination. In Ali Baba, Shahrazad challenged greed and injustice. In Aladdin, she presented a tale of self-worth, ingenuity, and the idea that true power lies within. In Sinbad's adventures, she explored the themes of exploration, consequence, and redemption. Each tale was a carefully chosen mirror, reflecting not only human weakness, but also its potential for goodness. Shahrazad's genius lay in her ability to build tension and moral growth simultaneously. She knew the king would not respond to lectures, but to empathy. Through her characters, she made him live 1,000 lives, feel 1,000 emotions, and slowly, unknowingly, begin to change. But Shahrazad's stories weren't just for entertainment. They carried deep moral and philosophical lessons. Let's pause and think about the context. The Islamic Golden Age was a time when storytelling wasn't just art. It was a way to pass down wisdom, challenge norms, and inspire change. Shahrazad's tales reflected themes of justice, mercy, and the complexities of human nature. Many of the stories she told had roots in ancient Indian texts like the Panchatantra, Persian legends like Hazar, Afsana, and Arabic oral traditions. They were adapted and interwoven into an ethical tapestry that transcended geography and time. In a philosophical sense, Shahrazad was a practitioner of what we might call narrative therapy today. She understood that stories can heal, that by reimagining our world through tales, we gain the distance to reflect on our own lives. In her stories, kings who ruled with cruelty were overthrown or redeemed, lovers found peace, and the just were rewarded. Through these lenses, she invited Shahryar to reimagine himself not as a tyrant, but as a man capable of change. As the nights turned into weeks and weeks into months, something remarkable happened. The king's heart began to change. He found himself waiting each night not for bloodshed, but for stories. He was learning to hope again, to laugh, to feel empathy. He was living vicariously through heroes, villains, tricksters, and dreamers. By the 1001st night, Shahrazad had not only survived, but had also transformed the tyrant into a just ruler. Her mission was complete. He spared her life not out of pity, but out of respect, admiration, and perhaps love. She had become his mirror, his conscience, and his guide back to humanity. Shahrazad's story doesn't end with her. Her courage and creativity have echoed through centuries. The tales she told, known as 1001 Nights, became one of the most influential works of literature in history. They traveled across continents, inspiring adaptations in every form, from the Persian poet Ferdowsi to the French translator Antoine Galland, whose version introduced the stories to the West, including editions like Aladdin and Ali Baba. Today, these tales live on in films, operas, novels, video games, and children's books. But perhaps more importantly, they survive in the way we still tell stories to teach, to comfort, and to resist. Shahrazad is not just a historical character, she is an archetype, a reminder that resistance can take many forms, and that one voice, speaking with clarity and courage, can break a cycle of violence. So what can we learn from Shahrazad today? That stories are more than entertainment. They are blueprints for empathy. That transformation is possible even in the heart of darkness. And that no tyranny lasts forever when faced with truth. Imagination and the quiet, powerful courage of a single storyteller in a world that often feels divided. Shahrazad's legacy is a call to use our voices, whether through words, art, or actions, to create a better tomorrow. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more journeys into the timeless power of storytelling.